Negotiations are continuing today in Cancun as world leaders meet to craft a framework for curbing global warming around the planet. Our planet Earth is coming through the hottest decade on record, which highlights just how important tangible results are down in Mexico. But a lot of attention recently has shifted away from climate change and onto one particular country who might be engaging in some unsavory business at the negotiation table. That country, the United States. Amy Goodman recently reported on a WikiLeaks diplomatic cable that revealed how the U.S. manipulated last year's Copenhagen summit. Amy is an investigative journalist, syndicated columnist, author, and executive producer and host of Democracy Now! She joins us live via Skype from Cancun. Amy, welcome.
It's great to be with you, Tom.
Great to have you with us, Amy. Tell us about the U.S. behavior in Copenhagen, particularly in the frame or context of what we now know about what the United States did in Copenhagen a year ago.
Well, this continues your previous discussion because it's about the WikiLeaks cables. Now, I'm not talking about WikiLeaks writing cables, right? We're talking about the biggest leak of diplomatic cables in U.S. history. And it's the cables that have started to come out that WikiLeaks has released together with the Guardian newspaper in Britain, El País newspaper in Spain, Der Spiegel in Germany, the New York Times, Le Monde in France. And what these cables show when it comes to climate change is, for example, last February, there was a meeting between the Deputy Climate Envoy of the United States, Jonathan Pershing, and the European Climate Action Commissioner. Her name is Connie Hedegaard. And they were talking about how the small island nations would be the most vulnerable to signing on to the accord, even if they didn't support it, the Copenhagen Accord, if they got money. Are we talking about bribery here? That's the question I put to Todd Stern, the chief U.S. climate envoy, yesterday at a news conference. And I said, a lot of people are saying right now, are you talking about bribery when you engage in negotiations or democracy? And it's not only about rewarding countries to get them to sign on to the accord, but it's about punishing countries that won't sign on, like Ecuador. I interviewed President Rafael Correa today of Ecuador and asked him about the millions of dollars the U.S. cut off in aid to Ecuador, as they did to Bolivia, because they refused to sign on to the Copenhagen Accord because it wasn't binding. And President Correa said, I would give the U.S. twice that amount of money if they would sign on to the Kyoto Protocol. But the WikiLeaks documents are extremely revealing about the kind of arm twisting, the pressuring. This is why these documents are so important.
So given that this is out here, Amy, how is the U.S. acting now? Are we changing our behavior as a consequence of having been outed as a bad actor?
Well, I can just say the question here is Kyoto dead? And that is very sad. Is Kyoto dead, the Kyoto Protocol? And that's what these developing countries are so desperately afraid of, that the industrialized world, being led by the United States, remember President Obama flew into Copenhagen, and that was the death of any kind of real accord coming out of Copenhagen that would have any kind of binding effect. That here, it will be the final nail in the coffin for Kyoto. And that is so problematic for the small island nations that are, they're facing possibly being submerged, losing their islands.
Ceasing
we're
to
not
exist.
Just talking
And
about
this is so far away from the 350 that Bill McKibben talks about, 350.org. Hitting that, Kyoto was even way before that. I'm curious what's happening off screen down there. The talks are being held in a building called the Palace. What's happening outside the Palace? Is there a foundation for or a coming together of possibly a worldwide movement outside the traditional rings of power?
Well, yes, specifically it's called the Moon Palace, which is very appropriate because it seems like we're on the moon here. In fact, I'm talking to you from Moon Palace, and very much a palace that is removed from the rest of society. If Copenhagen was difficult, this is almost impossible. Civil society is in one place. They're way outside. They don't have the proper accreditation to come through here. The media is in another place and apart from where the delegates are. And talking about climate change and global warming, the amount of, though they have a lot of bicycles here, it's also buses that we have to take everywhere to try to cover this conference. But yesterday, Via Campesina, a major global farmers organization of small farmers, had a mass march of thousands of people demanding to be included. You have the Bolivian ambassador, Pablo Solon, just raced out of his news conference saying he will not participate in informal talks with elite countries. He wants there to be a formal process so that every step of the way is transparent and the countries can understand what kind of accord is being hammered out here. These are, there's real concern that this is worse than Copenhagen. Some are calling this Cancún-Hagen.
That's not good news. Amy Goodman, one of the best reporters, one of the best journalists working in the United States. Amy, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Tom, for all your work.
Thank you. It used to be that other countries looked up to the United States to lead the world and tackle important issues. But as Amy just pointed out and Cancun illustrates, gone are those days. Now countries look at the U.S. and wonder how we are rigging the game. Wasn't President Obama supposed to restore our nation's image around the world?